From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's going on this week, Lou?
Matt, you and I always talk about real estate investments, but the problem with real estate is the barrier to entry is so high. You need big deposits. You probably need a little bit of expertise. You've got to scour all the listings and find several brokers before you find the prospect that's within your profit margin. So there is a wonderful gentleman that we've been looking forward to having on our show. Craig Cecilio is the founder, CEO, and self-proclaimed janitor of DiversyFund. He's trying to he is democratizing real estate investments for everyone. So, Craig, welcome to the Liquid Lunch Project, and tell us something about your fund.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, it was an idea. People thought I was crazy trying to work with retail investors at the end of the day, do the micro investments. It was really a battle to get this thing going and get it started. And here we are today. It's 2022. We have 30,000 customers on our platform, close to 100,000 transactions, and hundreds of millions of dollars of apartments owned throughout the U.S. It feels really good to give people an opportunity that never had it before and to educate them about this asset class and give them an opportunity to build wealth, just like the institutions and the ultra high net worth individuals. And I got to say, it's just, I get some satisfaction out of taking an idea that people thought, hey, you're crazy. You should just talk to rich people to do your deals and to offer to everyone. And also my love of technology and branding and all that stuff, I get to kind of play in that because it feels like almost it's fun for me to do that stuff, understanding technology and how all those pieces work as well. So it's exciting it's so exciting to do this.
Craig, when we were little, we all liked to play Monopoly. So your fund obviously resonates with the inner entrepreneur in us all. Tell us, for our audience, me and Matt have, let's say, $5,000. We want to invest in your fund. Let's roll up our sleeves. Explain to us how it works. How do we select the property? How does the investment work? We're loving your platform. We're loving your idea. Help us understand the inner workings.
Yeah, I like the Monopoly comparison because the fact is that we have a property on Park Place or Park Boulevard. So we do have something that relates directly to that. That's a home run project as well. Yeah, we're kind of really benefiting from a frothy market. So the investments are really sound. Very easy to do. A lot of people use an app. We have an app, so you can do it from an app. We're very mobile friendly. The majority of the users use their cell phones at the end of the day, Android or iOS, Apple, to transact, doing a lot of financial transactions. I think that came out of the pandemic. People felt more comfortable transacting through their phones and online. Also, go to our website itself. It's very easy to do. You can just go on there, you log on, you set up an account, and all of a sudden you just kind of click buttons. And you can be done in a matter of seconds. Less than a minute. Just select it. You select the button, you fill out the questions we ask, and automatically could link to your bank account and just hit the button and sign the paperwork with a kind of a automatic signature you put in, and there you go. That quick.
So, Craig, when somebody's investing, are they investing in a single asset or are they investing in multiple assets throughout the fund?
It's a portfolio for economies of scale. The expenses that you would occur working with a retail investor, it's very expensive to do on a per property basis. The moving parts would not make it economically feasible for all parties. And so we're trying to give the everyday investor, the retail investor, an opportunity to build wealth and give them yield. And we don't want to crush that by all the fees that are charged by the individual property with all the filings and complexities of working with the SEC and the other regulatory agencies.
So when an investor makes an investment, right? So I'm assuming they're going to get distributions, correct?
Yes.
From the fund. How often do you guys pay out your distributions?
Distributions usually come, funds in this type of asset class of value adds, you're looking year 2, year 3, where you're going to kind of in that sweet spot where it goes. And that's usually when the cash distributions start coming out on a quarterly basis. Again, we do quarterly just because the fact is we're still building out that tech to break it down, but there is still a little bit of working with, I call it the legacy world or traditional world where it's not as tech savvy with some of these properties because we're finding distressed properties. So we're working on that as they get more in tune with technology and it connects to our systems better. We can do a monthly distribution. But right now, that's still not, I use the word modernized enough to do that. So you could just understand on the individual property management level, these properties throughout the U.S., some of them aren't really, just some of the systems there aren't technologically there yet to make that process a little faster.
Do you use any leverage inside the fund?
We do. I mean, we're around, I'd say, I mean, we're now, you guys understand what's going on in today's market, so it's a little bit less, more equity down. So we're around 60s, but around 60%. I think it's like 60, 62 and a half on average.
Now, Craig, when Matt and I invest in REITs, we get the annual statement, we get a letter with a bunch of legalese, jargon, but you're basically investing in a group of people that are, you would think, savvy investors, and they're veteran fund managers. When we invest with our Uncle Mike says, leave me alone, you'll get your money in 2 years, right? Tell us, where does your fund fall in the communications paradigm when it comes to dealing with the public?
30,000 people. It's definitely, we don't have the bandwidth to call them on a daily basis, right? And then there's all the, all the regulatory stuff that you have to watch out. So really, because of that reason, and when I talk about regulation, I mean, you want to be a good operator, right? You want to abide by all those laws. So what we do is try to minimize the cost. There's a lot of costs associated with that. So we try to automate everything. So we have bots, chat rooms. We have an open forum that we have once you have an account set up that people ask questions on a day-to-day basis. And actually, this is a good timing for this podcast. This week was our first kind of market and portfolio update where we brought our chief investment officer and our head of real estate, held an open 1-hour conversation with our community about the assets and performance of those assets. So we do that on a quarterly basis. So we're always kind of adding to be innovative with things, always updating our product is really making the product, meaning like when you log into your account, seeing things, whether it's graphs or infographic, getting customer feedback and optimizing that. So kind of think of it like every time we talk to a customer and they ask us a question, we're like, okay, how can we make this a better experience for them? That's the whole kind of UX technology part of it. So that's a constant thing that you're always improving and always kind of getting feedback with time. With that many customers, yeah, there's quite a bit of questions you get. So you try to kind of try to do your best to be communicative and very transparent with things. And as far as the filings, we have to file annually and get audited with the SEC and submit that to their website. So those things are open to the general public to look at as well.
Now, Craig, you guys scaled this company after COVID, right? Very, very quickly. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you guys did that?
Yeah, it's like that. It's like a movie, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, right? Pick your poison. So yeah, going in, it's like, I was excited. It was like 19, last quarter 19, I kind of just hired a new CMO. They were living in Atlanta. They were flying out to San Diego and they were going to move out here and everything. We were all excited. We decided to go out and raise some capital and really kind of go in and 10X our marketing and go implement a strategy called blitzscaling, which is just spending a lot of money to acquire customers as fast as possible to seize market share. So all of a sudden March rolls around and everyone doesn't know what's going on, right? Everyone's kind of panicking. This uncertainty is at an all-time high. And I kind of feel like that now are kind of similar energy. And everyone's looking at me. I was like, well, I made the decision, if we're not changing it, I would have let you know. We're still spending money and doing it. So we spent the money, of course. We had all the logistics of people kind of going working from home, right? From that. And so we had to deal with all that stuff, but we did end up spending money. We had about 2,000 customers before that. And at the end, 2 years later, we're about 30,000 customers. So it worked from a customer acquisition point of view. Of course, with that tech strategy, if you read the book, it tells you right away, you're going to have these issues. And it was like verbatim. I had those issues that the book talked about right down the middle. Is you're hiring really fast, right? Your customer service is going to be broken a little bit, and some of your systems, you're not worried about building systems and processes because you're just trying to get customers as fast as possible. So then you can learn from it, so you can get them, make it more cost effective for you in the future.
Wow, I think they call that a hockey stick. That's exactly what you guys did. What are you seeing, or what are you guys projecting as far as the real estate market goes in the next 24 months?
That's a good time. And we just closed on something yesterday. We closed on 2 properties, about $25 million of property we sold. fantastic IRRs on the property level that we got. We did get retraded on these. We got these under, I think, contract in March, and the first buyer didn't want to pay, give the price. They wanted to do a retrade. So we had, I think when we put in the market, we had like 20 offers in a week. So we were able to go back to the next buyer and get about 5% less.
Can you explain what a retrade is for the audience?
Well, a retrade, it's locking. The way I look at it is like you lock something up in escrow, and then something changes in the market, and you use that change in the market to say, hey, you know what? I don't think my price is a little too high that I put it in due to these reasons. And today would be inflation. My debt's getting more expensive. Hey, I will buy it for this much. And this usually happens before your deposit goes hard. And so you're left with that question. Do you accept those new terms, or do you put it back on market? And it just depends.
That could be used as that's a negotiating tool for a lot of real estate investors as well, right? To get the property locked up off the market and then go in and then try to renegotiate down.
Yeah, you got to be careful if you're doing that as a buyer, because if you're working on these asset classes, these institutional quality ones, the broker community is small, and they don't like that because these guys are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars per commissions, and you don't want to jeopardize your reputation. So usually when you put something under contract, you want to kind of be consistent. You want to be able to close what that is. Of course, savvy investors know when the market changes, they could use that as an excuse. The market's really changing drastically right now. We're seeing retrades up to 15% across the board and stuff. But again, these are still frothy returns across the board. If you're selling stuff, if you bought stuff in 18 or 19 or even 20, so you're still going to make out pretty well if you're selling some apartments today.
Craig, you and your team and your portfolio, do you try to respect certain parameters? Like, do you want to maintain a certain percentage in retail, a certain in hospitality, maybe even a certain in residential? Or is it, if it works, it works?
Yeah, well, right now we're basically, our sweet spot's like 200 units, apartments. We're throughout the U.S. geographically. I'd say we're heavier in the southeast region of the U.S. So that's our kind of cookie cutter deal. We have opportunistic things that come by, and they're like once in a while opportunistic. It means there's just a special circumstance in the return, and the risk matches the anticipated return on those assets. So we kind of stay in that general frame of getting those 200 units. Emerging markets, secondary markets, you kind of look at just kind of underlying data. Right now, if we're buying stuff, we're kind of really looking another level deeper at things. But there's still good deals out there. I mean, there is still a lot. I mean, we're assuming some debt too. So it's a good time period if you're buying, if you can assume the debt, because the rates were so low the last few years. That's another technique. I think if people have the ability to do that, I'd go try to buy somewhere where you can assume some of the debt on those properties.
Yeah, I was just talking about that with somebody else. I think me and Luigi were having a conversation about that too. I think you're going to see a lot of that if you're able to assume these loans, or maybe even residential. I don't know if you can get a subject to assuming the debt, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be what a lot of people are doing or trying to do moving forward in the next 24 months.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. We've assumed some debt. We've had a couple transactions in escrow for a real long time because it's government debt, and they had the paperwork debt. And so we're like, okay, we're closing 2 next month that we've had under contract for a year. They're Fannie loan assumptions. And so they just take a little while to process. I mean, really took a long time to process this. With the pandemic, the government, still, what can you say? The government. But we're benefiting now. We're like, oh, this is great. We got these great deals in escrow that get really great rates on 3 to 4%. So we're pretty happy about that. We're doing pretty good overall.
So when you guys go and you purchase a property, do you have a time frame you want to hold it for before coming out of it?
Yeah, generally speaking, we're looking at a 4 to 6 year window, and just depending on the market conditions, seeing what we do. We have some that we bought 3 years ago that we sold today because the markets were really great. They're really frothy. Of course, like 5 months ago was just insane. Everybody's knocking on your door to buy something with that. And then going forward, it might get a little dicey out there. You might see that values are already starting to drop. A lot of retrades are happening. It's across the board. I think it's like 15% now of what you had it on, maybe 3 months ago on the market. Things are going down, but it's still a good market to be purchasing stuff in. Just looking at stuff and underwriting the correct way, not I've seen some people underwrite stuff with like 7% annual growth on rents year over year. That's kind of in a hot market, but how long is that can sustain? So you got to kind of be conservative a little bit, I think, on your underwriting going into these things.
Craig, with your soft spot of 200 units, more or less, is the concern more the cap rate, or is it getting a solid purchase price?
It depends on the property, the area where it's at, right? Because if you take a step back and look at things, and it's like a tertiary market and the cap rate's high, you got to kind of look at all.
Yeah, Craig, I probably should have qualified that question, because when you said Southeast America, I'm looking at frothy Atlanta metropolitan area and a very frothy state of Florida. So you're probably not getting too much bang for your buck, but the rents there are astronomical.
Yeah, well, I mean, we own property today. We purchased in 2020 in those areas. So, I mean, yeah, but going into purchase stuff, you got to look at it from a different lens. So right now we have a great pipeline of stuff that we put in before things have changed. They're I think they're distressed and discounted. So we're good with those with our loan. I think we have about 4 in our pipeline that are, I think 3 are loan assumptions at the end of the day. So we're really looking good from that point of view. But after we close those and look at the next round we're going to get, the market's changing so fast. So we're just going to have to really tighten up our underwriting and look at those specific markets and sub-markets in those areas. It's just changing. So you guys can understand it's changing so quickly overnight with rates going up across the board. Is it today or is it next week when they're going to vote, the Fed's getting together?
I think it's today, and then next week. I'm not actually even sure, to be honest with you. But I mean, they're talking about a 75-point move, right? 75 basis points, and then another 75 basis points after that. So we'll see. Yeah,
that's definitely going to affect your debt. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the underwriting is. You're going to have to be required to put more down payment, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be, and definitely. Who's that going to affect at the end of the day, though? Let's take a step back. Is purchasing these properties, the retail investor who, or just an average investor is going out there trying to purchase these properties are now have to come in with extra down payment money. So who has that capital? Institutions, family offices, and so they get to go in and buy distressed stuff. The market changes and it's kind of this repeat rinse, right? Oh, wait, they get the benefit, but myself who owe extra money, that means it's tough for me to get into that market. So it's just, it's another thing. And it's almost like every down cycle, the system is set up for the wealthy to benefit each and every time, because he who has the dry powder gets the deals at the end of the day. And most people don't have that dry powder around. They don't have it.
On that subject, Matt and I were actually talking about this a couple of days ago. Why do you think all these hedge funds and venture capital funds are seeking to gobble up these single family residential homes literally across the United States? I mean, they are like sector agnostic. It's throughout the U.S. I mean, what's going on there?
Well, they've gotten so much capital. They have so much. They got it for so cheap for so long, right? So they have so much to deploy to get it out there, and it's kind of getting out of control because they're just pumped. They have so much liquidity. So where are they going to put this stuff? And right now they're putting all into the single families across the board. I mean, I'm sure we all watched that same special. I think it was on 60 Minutes, and how that hedge fund was just buying stuff up the whole Southeast, sight unseen, every property, all cash. And first time home buyers are done. They're out of the market. Where are they gonna live at the end of the day? So I mean, it's crazy right now.
Are single family homes lucrative investments?
Well, back when the crash happened, you're buying stuff. Yeah, I feel yeah.
But
I bought a lot of life then. I was just holding it. So it's just the timing. It's just different. It's just the market's changed. If you could get a deal, yeah, that's great. But how are you going to get a deal? How are you going to get something today? I mean, how are you going to execute on that?
But I mean, if the underwriting reports that you're reading are saying 7% rent increases year over year, right? Yeah. It makes sense to buy something because you're getting a 7% return on what you buy, right? So, well, I don't know.
It's tough. How are you going to get unless you have all cash? The broker on the deal. You get a hedge fund as your client. Who are you going to take? That individual or that hedge fund? That hedge fund's going to keep buying, and they're not going to buy one. They're going to buy like 100, maybe 1,000 properties. So what's your incentive as a broker to give the individual investor opportunity?
There isn't.
There isn't any. Yeah, it doesn't make business sense for them.
There is none.
You kind of think of all these things and you kind of see how the deck is stacked against the everyday person.
Craig, bring us back to how you got started in real estate to where you are today.
How far back do you want to go? Because we go way, way, way back.
As far as you want to go, my friend.
Craig,
Yeah.
usually the further back you go, the more you get to the truth.
Well, it started my parents being working class people growing up in Connecticut, great town, Fairfield, Connecticut. But they were working class. Mom was a school teacher. Dad was in retail. Dad used to always complain, everyone makes money except myself. We didn't have the country club membership and all that stuff. And I was always like, well, why don't you do something about it? And he used to always joke, I think money grows on trees. So I kind of buried a $1 bill in the backyard, water it for 2 nights. And I go, I guess not, because it really got rich and he got really mad. And you just hearing him just complain all the time kind of laid a seed in me like, well, why don't you do something about it? And then I started I was like an entrepreneur very early in life, just doing different things. Like normal kids do, newspaper routes, lemonade stands, mowing lawns, all that stuff. So then I started kind of learning about real estate and stuff. And I remember when I went to college, I was like, Dad, we should buy this condo on Broadway. It's in Boulder, Colorado. I think it was like $90,000. And Broadway is always a great street, like in every town, right? In most towns. And he's like, and I was like, hey, I'll just walk in. I will not live in the dorms. I'll just get a renter and we could pay the mortgage. And he, today that thing's worth like $2-3 million, right? This is like 1991. That's when I kind of started, the seed started going to me to get involved in real estate a little bit. And then it was just kind of, once that seed was planted, it was just really just kind of itching that scratch and putting myself in a position to learn from people. And that's when after school, I went out to California and I just met some people, and then I started getting I mentored about the different aspects of raising capital, real estate, deal structuring, all that stuff, funds and all that stuff. So I can't say like I went out and said I'm going to meet this person and learn this stuff. I just knew what I had to do, where to go, and I was going to meet people and just kind of made it happen. But I did stick myself in a situation to meet the right people. Some of the decisions.
You were always on the institutional side?
No, a lot on the retail side, high net worth side, tremendous amount on the high net worth individuals. A lot of experience there.
So where do you see yourself going next? I mean, you guys are growing so fast. I know you're focused on this company, but what's 2.0 look like?
What they say that the job's not finished. And so I like what we created, and a byproduct of what we're learning from the feedback is the educational component. And I am a little shell-shocked on how much people do not know about real estate, one, but also about, how much they should invest and how does it work based on their journey, their financial journey. Because a lot of stuff is out there, talks about, hey, do this, get these returns, but doesn't break it down at how does it relate to you as an individual. And so there's a lot of course, misinformation out there, right? At the end of the day, I'm not saying anything different. So people are learning, but they're not really learning how it applies to them and their situation in life. And so then it's like, okay, I feel like we're still doing the educational component, and then we want to create tools for them to kind of get on that path. And the American dream is to go up the wealth ladder. Of course, this is why it's supposed to be a great country, because it has the best opportunity for everyone to go up the wealth ladder. And that's the tool we're providing to people, but we also have to provide education. And once that happens, I mean, I could say, hey, I did it. And I feel like I've done it already, but that's my last thing I want to accomplish. And then I could call it a day back then. I got some kids. Maybe I call it a day when I get to that part being finished.
So financial literacy component of real estate, it's definitely a big need in this country. I mean, I'm not too real estate savvy myself, I'll be honest with you, as some investors, but very basic stuff. Very, very basic. We try to keep it simple. As far as DiversyFund goes, are you guys allowed to take qualified money as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an option out there so people can go in, if their money in an IRA or a qualified account, they can actually invest with you guys as well?
Yeah.
How many acquisitions do you guys plan on? I know you have a couple in the pipeline, but how many more you think you plan on making before the end of the year?
Let's say about 4 to 5, one a month. We like to do around one a month right now.
And the whole time is about 4 to 6 years.
4 to 6 years.
Any assets that you think you're not going to sell that you're going to hold on to for a while because they're overperforming?
I'd like to hang on to all the assets if we could, but if we're promising people exits 4 to 6 years, we want to abide by that right now. But we're working on things to think if there's some ways to keep some of these assets, and we got to make sure all the stakeholders are happy. The people invest in the assets themselves, those customers, the business itself, and everything's aligned together. That's a tricky part of running a business because I have shareholders in the company who want to see profits too. So you got to kind of make sure everybody's happy. Because the customers are happy, they'll come back again and produce more profits for you, and that will keep your shareholders happy. So it's that walking that fine line of building a business.
Craig, you've got a compelling story. You have a seamless platform, very frictionless. You've got a savvy operator who's well-known in the industry. On paper, this company should just take off to no end. What sort of resistance are you noticing in the market? Is it that, let's call it ignorance? Is it that educational threshold?
Yeah, I think there's a few obstacles, and we've gone through quite a bit of obstacles that I would never have imagined that we'd have to face in the early days. And so one is great in having proof of concept, because then you can go out and hire really good people, because when you have an idea, they're looking at you. What are you talking about? Especially hiring your real estate team, because they don't care about the idea. They want to get paid commissions and closing deals. So like, I don't care if you're, bringing in non-accredited investors. I want to do deals. So, when in your first days, you're bringing in 5 people a day and it's just like $5,000 cumulative. They're looking at you like, oh, how are you going to ever buy these real estate deals? So that was interesting just on the hiring side. The other obstacles, going down the road, the education component is big. Really educating people is a big deal. And I would say the other one is how the compliance comes in, and the regulatory environment is changing all the time. And so as you grow as an organization, you got to bring in a compliance officer and making sure all your processes are in place, because we're not actually selling. People aren't selling. It's been done through marketing pieces, through the digital world. It's a little different. And what's called the regulatory agencies keep changing what those rules are. So you got to constantly just kind of look at stuff and put process in place, which is kind of a little bit slows you down a little bit, because you have to educate marketing people about compliance. And it's just the way it is in the digital world. And you can see out there, a lot of the tech companies are getting hammered right now across the board. And then you have to also I call it the crypto winter is happening. It's not like Game of Thrones, not like once every 10 years. This is just one kind of happening. But the way the SEC, and every day I'm reading some different article on how they're influencing the crypto market right now. It's pretty, you guys make your own judgment call what you think is going on with that. But when they do something, it's affecting the stock price of these companies. And a couple of these companies are bankrupt due to some of the actions they took. So
you don't have to tell me. I know way too well. So let's talk about that for a second. So how are you guys marketing, because the SEC changes the rules? Now, when I was on Wall Street, we weren't allowed to market to non-accredited investors at all until the rules changed not too long ago.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you guys go about marketing?
Yep. First, if you want to market, you have to figure out, well, we went up the stages and got more licensing. So one, we're just doing offerings that we had to get qualified to the SEC, and then you could solicit, is the word they use. And then we became a registered investment advisor recently. And
okay.
So that allows us more opportunity to do more things with that license. And there's a whole freaking, category of compliance with that as well. And as all meshed together. Not a fun thing, guys. Not a fun thing, because it's expensive to put it all together. But then we're able to, push out advertisements, really talk about more the how it works, like growth. Let's talk, because it's more of a growth investment, so we have to talk about growth a lot, really be transparent. You don't want to promise any kind of returns. You want to say, hey, use historical data as much as you can. I wouldn't even use operator data, so I would use our data of how we perform, because if I'm underwriting a deal myself, I always look at, if I take over that property and I have to hire someone to do it, can they manage it? So when I underwrite, I don't look at that operator. It's like I look at like an average operator operating it for a return. So it's kind of the same thing. So you use more historical data to push out there and say, hey, these asset classes historically produce these types of returns for people. So you just kind of have to watch what you say, use third-party data to support that, and you should be okay. but you got to do that across the board, though. You don't want to do stuff. So it's just kind of really having processes put in place, which just costs, it's more people and more money to do that. So it's almost like you have to get to that point where you're large enough to afford that. Unfortunately, you don't want to come out the gate and have a perfectly compliant platform with no revenue. That's great, but you still need to make revenue at the end of the day. So it's kind of a fine line. And I think that's one other point there. That's another barrier for people, is they make it so hard to build these platforms. So if the regulatory agencies make it so hard to build these platforms, and they're really trying to be protecting people through regulation, whereas they should be like, let's educate people. So I feel like there's not that lead with education, let's lead with regulation. You need regulation. You definitely need that, but education has to be there. And then we're in a world where you could just Google something and figure it out at the end of the day. So a little bit, we need to work on that a little bit better. Because right now, it's not like we're buying Shiba when you're investing in real estate. You're not going to put $1,000 in and become a multimillionaire overnight. And so that's some of the things, is people do think that. Some of these investors think they stick a little bit of money in, they're going to be a millionaire. I'm like, no, you can't stick $1,000 in, a millionaire. What's the return? So how do you educate them? It's very, very big part.
But I think a little bit of that is the transition of that space throughout America. I mean, look, when Matt was on the exchange, he was highly regulated, but he was able to charge a fee for it. So it was worth his time and effort, and that regulation protected the consumer. Now with this no fee platform, and that's usually the trend, the onus is who's going to educate the consumer? Is it going to be Craig vis-a-vis his fund, or is it going to be the government through some governmental regulatory agency? And I think that's what the government and the private sector has to figure out. Who's going to take that helm in educating?
Yeah, maybe it's a requirement. It should be a partnership between the two, and not, it should be adversarial. It should be okay. We know there's bad actors out there, and bad actors, someone's taking your money and buying a car with it, right? And so just Google who you're investing with. If they're driving a Lamborghini, ask a question or two. Something simple as that. But we need to have people, and it's almost just like the way the polarization of the country is. It's like, why are these agencies not working with private companies to make it better, instead of like, okay, you got to do it this way? It's that mentality that we're living in today. It's just.
But Craig, it seems like you're taking the lead just by doing that quarterly call for all your investors. You're educating them.
Yeah, we're trying to lead with transparency. We're trying to be as transparent as possible with them. And hey, you're on our side. You're our customers. We're David versus Goliath here. We're taking on institutions. Join us, join our community. We're going to give you the benefits. We're going to give you those opportunities that everyone else.
Craig, I'm sold. Tell us where to sign up.
Well, easy, DiversyFund.com. We got an app, download on your iOS or Android.
Simple as that.
That's simple.
That's simple, yeah.
Hey, Craig, we really appreciate you being here, and we really love what you're doing, bringing institutional quality real estate investments to everyday investors. There's not many folks out there doing it, so I take my hat off to you for that. We want to be respectful of your time. So can you tell everybody where to find you, or is the best place DiversyFund.com?
Yeah, DiversyFund's for the company itself. You can follow me on my social channels. I'm under my name, Craig Cecilio, or CXC. I'm LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So easy to find. It's not a lot of people with the same name as I have. CXC, Craig Cecilio, and DiversyFund.com for the platform itself.
Craig, thanks so much for being here. But before I let you run, describe yourself in one word.
One word: relentless.
Love it. Guys, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.